Well, good morning, Damn Fam. Today, recording day is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. And today on the Daily Beaver Morning Show, we are going to talk about what is being touted as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, green energy deal in Canadian history. An agreement between the provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador and the province of Quebec with a little federal assistance to get it over the finish line. And of course, today is potential Trump Taco Eve. Hey, did you fill out your stockings? I wonder how many shots of tequila we'll need after we get the announcement. Wow. Yeah, one day until August 19th when we find out whether or not those 50% tariffs come slapping down or whether or not we get a last minute cliffhanger and plot twist, which is typical of Trump. We don't know which Trump we're going to get, but we'll look at a little bit into where things stand at the moment. So, damn fam, grab your favorite bevy, pull up a log, make yourself comfortable because here we go.
Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 6 and episode number 963 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian, right there. And always, of course, 100% Beaverific. Today, recording day is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026. It is a beautiful day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. Not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. And a big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Damn fam, how is your mental health today? Um, uh, Doing a little worse than I was when I woke up this morning. For those of you who are on the chat, didn't take long for technical stuff to not go right this weekend on this show. I had to do a take 2 because I think I got all of 17 seconds into the show before everything froze. Yay. But hey, we've already been talking more than 17 seconds and things are going well. So I'm considering that progress. Right? You take what you get. You're here. I'm here. Everything's fine. Actually, mood is pretty good. I am very tired, however. It's been a very busy weekend. As you know, didn't do a show Friday and didn't do a show Monday because, again, a lot of traveling. This summer, I've taken on a lot of social stuff, but I had a birthday party to go to some friends in Ottawa on Friday evening, and did that. It was a wonderful time. Had a late night swim under the stars as part of it, which was kind of nice. Beautiful event. Thank you to my friends and everybody there for a wonderful time. And then the next day, I had to be off to Toronto because it was my Beaver Sweetie's dad's birthday. And you absolutely want to celebrate that. Had again some travel issues with a bus that was supposed to pick me up at a certain time to get to somewhere that did not pass by the stop. Again, it's the second time in 2.5 months that this happens to me. But it was okay. Caught the next one. Had to buy a second ticket, trying to get the first one refunded. That'll be a little tricky. First time it did happen, though, they did refund me the ticket. They said, "Yeah, oh, we're sorry." It's like, "Yeah, I understand you're sorry. The bus didn't pass, but it was out there sitting there. I was waiting outside at 5:30 in the morning, waiting for one to come by. You know how hard it is to leave your home to get to a bus stop at 5:30 in the morning." So this one wasn't that bad. It was an afternoon bus. So, I just went out and had supper early and then grabbed the next one. So that it was no big deal other than having to pay the second fare, which is, really stinks. So hopefully I'll be able to get the refund for that. But, everything was wonderful there again. Beautiful time with family. And yesterday, the reason I was absent, because we would be in transit again as well. But we had the opportunity, and I saw in the chat in that take one that somebody was going to see the Odyssey today because it's Tuesday. It's a little less expensive. We had the opportunity to do that yesterday, finally. We were thinking of doing it later because we saw that it was at IMAX, and normally when they give the movie schedule, it's only for the coming week, but this one had extra times, right? So it was saying how long it would be there, and it had already been extended once, but we weren't confident that it would be extended again when we'd go back, potentially go back to Toronto at the end of September. So we decided to see it this time because there were seats available Monday for the 11 a.m. show. I have never been to a theater that was so full on a Monday at 11 a.m. Then again, I've never been to a theater on a Monday at 11 a.m. before. So yeah, we went for the big thing. We stopped in Mississauga and the big IMAX experience of it because that's what all the cool kids are doing. It seems. I don't think you'll necessarily be missing much if you're not seeing it on a huge IMAX. Um, uh, there might be like part of the image that's smaller or something like that because you definitely get the sense of how grand, especially the big scenes are on the IMAX one. And, but I mean, it's not, there's no 3D aspect to it or anything like that. So it's just seeing it in a big screen. And I believe, from what my Beaver Sweetie has been telling me, is that there's a digital version and there's an analog version. So the version that was actually filmed on film, and it seems that that is the one we saw. So there's a texture and everything like that that goes with a film like that. So yeah, listen, I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the experience. It's a good film. It's a good tale. It's a good yarn. It didn't. Uh, Sometimes you go see a 3 hour film and it feels like 3 hours. I didn't feel like it felt like 3 hours. Starts a little slowly, but builds up. None of the performances are over the top and all that kind of stuff. I was actually quite impressed with the restraint in Anne Hathaway's performance. It was pretty good. Um, the director Christopher Nolan. So there's a certain dark element to it and to the storytelling, which is fine. It's not told in linear fashion necessarily, so you got to do a little work if you're a member of the audience. But it all comes together. It's good. It's very good. So yeah, I, like I said, I'm not sure you're missing anything specifically. If you're seeing it on the small screen, I would have to see it on the small screen to see the difference. It's you know, seeing it on the huge IMAX is incredibly impressive and very immersive. I enjoyed the experience. I'm glad I got to do that because usually I'm not the person that gets to do the cool thing as the cool kids are doing it. I usually do it a little later, or if at all. So but I think all the elements are there. The script writing is good. The effects are good. The acting is good. The sets are fantastic. Um, everything is there for you to enjoy the movie. It doesn't try too hard. It doesn't try to be too much. It just pretty much tells the story. Again, has a little bit of a dark edge onto it, but just tells the story. And yeah, I think it's uh, fantastic. Um, don't know if it'll, get all these Academy Award nominations and stuff like that. There might be. I can see the potential for something else coming along this year that could upend it. But this is the same director who also did Oppenheimer, that also came out early in the Oscar nomination season and did very well. So nothing did come up to really beat it over the course of the year. But I think people that go see it will be overall very very satisfied and enjoy the experience. So I hope that you guys who go and see it do enjoy it. I thought it was a wonderful time. Plus, it made a wonderful birthday present for my Beaver sweetie's dad on his birthday. So it was a wonderful day. So basically, the getting home yesterday was, if you look at it all, we left home and packed everything, went to the movie theater, watched the movie. We were a little hungry after that, had a little bite to eat, then came home. My Beaver sweetie had a board meeting because he's on the board of his local choir. And so we had to stop into a parking lot and take the meeting because we were about half an hour away from home, and we had hoped to be able to get home in time, but that wasn't going to happen. So, I went and had myself a hot chocolate at the Tim Hortons while my Beaver sweetie had the meeting. Uh, we did pull over in a parking lot because there's no way I was letting him have that type of phone conversation while he was driving. He agreed that was probably a smart idea. Meeting went way longer than planned. So after I had finished my hot chocolate, I twiddled my thumbs a little bit. But it's all good. It's all good. And we got home and, had a quick little light bite to eat and made it an early night because basically, we left one place at 10 a.m. and rolled into here at around 10 p.m. So it was a bit, not 12 hours straight driving, but it was a 12-hour trek home from one bedroom to the other. Let's put it that way. So it makes a big day. Makes a big day. All right. Let's see. Kid Bucky here, yes, talking about a great twist in the movie there, indeed. And Kit Nona Carol, yeah, you're the one, I believe, who I saw, was going to see it today, saying I saw 300 in IMAX last time I saw an IMAX movie, so I'm excited for it. See, 300 I completely missed. And that's one of the things. It's a movie I wanted to see. I actually know the person who was the costume designer for that film. Happened to meet him once. No, twice. Happened to meet him twice actually. So and I never actually got to see it. But apparently the 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 big grand scenes with everybody in them are absolutely fantastic, and because they actually cast the people rather than CGI it, it's really something to see. So yeah, I missed that one. I missed that one. That's one I wanted to catch in the movie theaters when it happened, and it didn't happen for me. So I hope that you have Not go and said, I felt that movie. It was incredible for a first time max. You'll feel this. Also, just to let you know, at least that was the case for me. The Odyssey is not a horror movie in any way, shape, or form, but there are still once or twice that I jumped out of my seat. Something unexpected happened and caught me by surprise. So, so that's the only spoiler I'm going to give you. If you're anything like me, there may be once or twice where you get a little shock. I was surprised by that. I didn't think, I'm not a big fan of gore, so there were a couple of times where it looked like things that were going to happen that would be very gory, and I was sort of like just wondering if I'm putting my hands above my eyes, but it wasn't all that bad. So that was fine. But yeah, there's in the horror movie when you hear that creepy music and like something's going to happen, you hear that sting and boom, you go like this. There's no music, there's no nothing. There's just stuff happens, and it's like So just giving you a heads up that might happen. All right. But yeah, I got to do the cool kid thing, so I'm very very happy. So thank you for your indulgence again this weekend with the changed schedule and also for the summer. Uh, it's nice to have a summer where I'm actually living and enjoying it a little bit rather than staying a little bit more at home and a little more reclusive. So I'm getting back into the world and yeah. Appreciate that you are allowing me the space to do that to Dan Fam. So thank you very much. All right, let's get into the show today because we do have a lot to talk about. We have uh, uh, a really, really, really big deal. A really big deal, and not just by Canada standards. This is a deal from what I am understanding. I have no personal knowledge or expertise in this area myself, but from what I'm hearing and the analysis out there that I am hearing, uh, this is a deal that would not only get national attention, that this is a deal that would very easily capture international attention here. So I have to rely on the word of the people that are saying this, but it seems that that is indeed, by any objective standard, the case here. Now, there's a bit of historical context that goes into this deal because, uh, how would I put it? There's a story behind how we get to this point that goes all the way back to the 1960s, right? So there was a deal between the government of Quebec and the government of Newfoundland and Labrador um, back, I think, signed around 1969, I think it was, the Churchill Falls deal. And that deal, from what I've been reading, seems to have been, it's labeled infamous in many ways. Infamous because, one, if you're listening to the story from the side of the Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, how they got screwed on it, it seems that um, energy was being sold at a rate of zero point 0.2 cents for whatever metric. I'm not sure if it's kilowatt hour or something, but whatever metric that they're using for the pricing, which was very, very, very low. Like right now, we're talking something, we're talking between 6 and 7.4 cents or something like that now, right, with this new deal. But 0.2 cents. So obviously, that was a fantastic deal for Quebec and not a good deal for Newfoundland and Labrador. The problem is that deal was also infamous by how ironclad it was. It seems that this deal has been taken to court many times, and to try to find a way to reopen it so that Newfoundland can be compensated more fairly for the value of what it is that it was offering. And there was just pretty much no way to do this. This deal was supposed to remain in effect, right, until 2041. So Quebec was going to continue getting these power at basically bargain basement prices and didn't have to do anything about that until 2041. However, given the current geopolitical climate, and it's become even more so now, but prior when they were getting into these negotiations, the province of Quebec was predicting that its energy demands would increase substantively over the next few decades and wanted to lock in early those reserves, wanted to lock in those reserves would be from being green power, hydroelectric, because that's the big thing in the province of Quebec, right? It's one of the cleanest jurisdictions in the entire world to produce electricity and to power your activities. So they want to continue on that because there's going to be an increasing competitive advantage from that as we go on and as climate change gets more intense. So they want to lock in right now terms for the next 50 years or so, right? These are terms that will bring them, I think, until about 2077 now instead of 2041. So they want to lock those terms in now, way in advance. And particularly, you're saying, well, why so early? If this deal comes out in 2041, why not just continue extracting those bargain basement prices? The thing is that by locking it in now, they know the supply is there. By locking it in now, they know how long it's going to take them to build everything that they need to generate the additional electricity that they will need by 2041. So they're doing it with enough lead time so that there's no gap in that service when it needs to be provided. So there's some foresight here, which is usually pretty rare in government, but it is taking place here. And then the government of Quebec, because it is locking in that at a rate of between 6 to 7.4 cents per whatever, again, metric that they are using, it is still cheaper than many of the other forms of green energy like solar and whatnot that comes in from what I've been hearing at around 12 cents or 13 cents. So they are locking in this competitive advantage of low cost energy until 2077 now. Right. So there's a lot for it. There's a lot of reason for Quebec to want to give up paying that bargain, to agree to pay more now for the energy that it was going to get at that bargain basement price until 2041 in order to be able to lock in a lower price and a guaranteed supply of green energy that will help its whatever's produced in the province to be more marketable to anywhere where there, let's say, there might be a carbon border adjustment mechanism, for example, like the EU. So that those types of activities can continue in the future. It's worth paying a little more now to lock that in because you'll be paying less when that time comes because you've locked in that lower price. So definitely a lot of advantage here. Now, there was a new deal signed in, or a memorandum of understanding signed in 2024 by the previous government in Newfoundland and Labrador, which was a Liberal government. It was Premier Andrew Furey at the time who had signed that. And then Andrew Furey stepped down. They had an interim leader who decided to bring the rest of the deal through, got the memorandum of understanding completely signed. And then there was a provincial election in which the opposition party, the Progressive Conservatives from Newfoundland and Labrador, and its leader, Tony Wakeham, campaigned on renegotiating this deal because they did not believe it served Newfoundland and Labrador's interests well enough, particularly on the basis that Newfoundland and Labrador may want to expand its own industrial basis with new mines and stuff like that in the future. And the deal, as agreed to, wasn't producing enough energy overall, and principally was not leaving enough in reserve for Newfoundland and Labrador to plan its future projects. So the Premier wanted to renegotiate that. So we have now at this stage something that's a little more than a memorandum of understanding. It's an actual agreement, but it is not a binding agreement. So nobody is locked into this yet. So that's where the stage is of that. Um, it seems that in order to do this, the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador had brought in a new panel that was allegedly an independent panel. I'm not very familiar with how the people were chosen and how whether or not it was regarded as independent generally by everybody in the province. But the government is saying that it was an independent panel. And they made some recommendations, and it seems that most, if not all, of the recommendations do feature in this particular deal that was signed yesterday. So this is a deal signed between Newfoundland, Labrador, and Quebec. So they were front and center, and they took center stage, and you can see that in the announcement. It was made in Newfoundland and Labrador. So Premier Wakeham opened it up and then passed it on to Premier Frechette, who passed it on then to Prime Minister Mark Carney. So it's kind of interesting to see an announcement where there are three leaders, and it's the Prime Minister of Canada who gets third billing. But really, in this particular case, this is where the role really does stand here for the federal government, because they weren't involved in the initial deal. And it seems that while we were talking about major projects and that type of stuff, if you remember, there was one time that we were presenting to you a press conference, and we were presenting some analysis on it. And there was a journalist that had asked the Prime Minister the question. I think it was around the time that Premier Wakeham had announced that he was reopening this negotiation. Uh, whether or not a project like that is something that the Prime Minister would consider as a potential, as a major project. And it seems that at that time, the Prime Minister did, in fact, indicate that that's something that would probably meet that, or had the potential to meet that criteria. So the fact that there is some federal involvement now, that the federal government maybe have played a role in bringing people together and maybe greasing a few wheels in order to help this to go through, is not particularly a surprise. Again, when one considers that this is a green energy deal, number one, the Prime Minister is about green stuff, even though a lot of people are doubting his credentials lately. And also, electrification seems to be one of his major, not only green energy and going green elements, but also one of his when he says building Quebec Canada strong and building a competitive advantage, that the future is in electrification. And if we do that well, and we do that first, particularly on this continent, that could yield very good things for us, again, particularly when it comes to being able to export our own products, particularly resources, right? Because if people are going to expect that these are dirtier processes, oil, mines, gas, to begin with, whatever you can do, for example, if the electricity that you need to do this, you can make all of that green, well, then that definitely reduces the amount of GHG emissions that are associated with the full manufacturing and shipping and everything of your product, and therefore might make it more competitive in a world where, right, how much GHGs are associated with your project will become some type of economic metric for trade. So again, there's some foresight there on our part as Canadians to be preparing for the future, not just following the American lead or resisting or denying that the future is going that way. But again, it is something that is embedded into the project, another green initiative, a green path forward, a green something that's embedded into a project rather than put into a policy or a larger goal or a target. Right? So that's, again, one of the ways that the Prime Minister is doing this stuff different on environment. Is it the path forward? Is that what will achieve the reductions? Of course, there's no way to know that. You can model and all that kind of stuff, but it's only once you start building it and putting it in practice, right? With the Alberta pipeline, unfortunately, we've seen the green commitment get smaller and smaller and smaller, right? I believe the pathways option, when it started, I think it was supposed to capture something like 22 megatons, and now with the announcement, when they made the big announcement, they said that everybody had agreed on pathways, but they didn't tell us to what they agreed. And then it came out about a week later or shortly after that the project is now 6 million megatons. So it keeps on decreasing in ambition, because I think last time I heard about it, it had decreased from 22 to 16, and now it's 16 to 6. Right? Now it's not even reducing the megatons that this particular pipeline itself would have associated with it. Originally, it was going to, and there was going to be a little additional. And then when they cut it to 16, it was going to barely, it wasn't going to cover the planned emissions, but not by so much that it would be like a total disaster. Now it's not even close. And yet, the number that they use, saying that this Pathways project will remove 6 million cars from the road, has not changed, regardless of whether or not it's been 2216 or 6 million megatons that it's capturing. So there's some questions to be asked there. And it's looking more and more and more that this thing that was supposed to be, again, private funded, as well, the Pathways thing, is probably going to be all government funded, or if not mostly government funded. Right? And then, of course, there are people wondering that if the carbon captured in this type of activity is used to then pump down to extend the life of wells so that we can pump more oil in it, out of it, well, how much of a benefit is it really to have captured that carbon in the first place in terms of reducing GHG emissions? Because no matter how much you reduce the GHG reduction emissions at the production and extraction phase and shipping phases and whatnot, they always remain the same at the burning phase. Right? That's when you can't change. So unless we're taking oil out of the ground for them to be used for applications other than being burned, which might be increasingly the way of the future in that particular industry. Not sure how much the carbon capture and storage is going to be doing to help reduce global GHGs. Again, like I said, and particularly if it's reinvested into producing more product that can be burned. Right? That at one point there's a little head crash, a little bit of a head scratching element to that. But in this case here, it is an entirely a green project, hydroelectricity, and with another component added to it that we will get to that makes it even greener. It seems that both provinces would receive more electricity than previously agreed to in the 2024 MOU, with production capacity increased by 27% at both ends, so at the Quebec end and the Newfoundland and Labrador end. It seems that the power generation on the Churchill River will skyrocket to greater than 12,000 megawatts. It will also create a dedicated transmission corridor from Newfoundland and Labrador that will allow power to travel through the province of Quebec, so that the province of Newfoundland and Labrador can negotiate its own contracts to sell to other buyers if it doesn't need the excess and Quebec doesn't need it as well, which is interesting because that has not been the case traditionally, I believe. I believe that if it's sort of like our oil that we send to the United States, we sell it at a discount, and then whatever they don't use after they've refined it, they sell it on the market for a bigger profit that we get nothing of, right? This, pardon me, is is a little bit similar. I think that the deal as it currently stands is that if there's an excess that Quebec doesn't use, it gets to sell it off and keep all the profit. And since it's buying it from Newfoundland and Labrador at 0.2 cents and then selling it at market rates, Quebec is making a killing off that as well. And that's money that people of the province of Newfoundland and Labrador have felt that should be going back to it for the longest time. So now they will have the opportunity to do that as well. Finally, when I was hearing this, I thought, oh, okay, this is the part where Mark Carney probably came in. As you know, when Mark Carney talks about major projects, he always has 5 conditions for them. And 2 of those 5 conditions, one is an opportunity for Indigenous partnership and ownership that's meaningful, right? And adding a green component. So this project is already green because it's hydroelectricity, but we still added another green component, and it seems that there will now be a wind power element to the project that will generate, once completed, a significant amount of megawatts. And there might be some association with the Innu community in northern Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador to be making this happen here, which again, very interesting. There are also, as I said, some things to grease it along, so some federal tax credits that will help ease things along. And given that it is the federal government that has encouraged the provinces to get to an agreement on this matter as quickly as possible, so that it can be sent to the major projects office. Again, not a surprise that the federal government would come in with some financial support. From what I remember off the top of my head, but there might be more in the articles that I'm going to read about it. About $6.54 billion or something in that area in support. Um, there has been recent elections in terms of governance of within the Innu community in Quebec. So there's a new chief of the Innu community that I guess I believe she was making her debut in that capacity with this big announcement. So they might have something to more to say about the deal because again, it isn't finalized, but there's been enough there agreed upon to make an announcement. Um, and you know how it is they're going to vote on that or get that approved by their community is one thing. But there's another thing in terms of Newfoundland and Labrador because the now premier, campaigned on holding a referendum on whatever new deal he could come up with. And, you know, to get to, I guess, the people's approval or take on it. It seems that that is not going to be happening anymore. So I'm not sure how big a wrinkle that is going to happen. The argument being used is that, well, time is of the essence, and, especially when you're seeing all the pressures that Trump is trying to put on us. So let's just sign this and then get on with it. Now, we have to strike the iron while it's hot. And the time to actually, put a referendum question, hold it, maybe put it at risk, all that kind of stuff. It's not in the interest of Newfoundland and Labrador anymore. This agreement is so much better that it doesn't need to do that. Um, that's a bold move because usually when you promise people that they're going to get to vote on something and then you make a big deal and then you pull the rug out of them and you say, sorry, no, after all, we're not going to let you vote. Usually that doesn't go over very well. Um, so we'll see what comes of that. But that was a very big, Mr. Premier Wakeham spent a lot of political capital making that decision here. One of the reasons that this deal, reaching this agreement, was time sensitive. It doesn't have so much to do with Donald Trump, even though it's been framed that way, but it has to do with the reality in Quebec, in that there is a provincial election coming in October. And the Parti Québécois is already on the record as not being very keen on this deal, just like it's not very keen on the Alto deal. The Parti Québécois seems to want to rip up every single deal that has been made with Canada, between the government of Quebec and the government of Canada recently. It's very Trumpy in that sense. So, getting this signed with Premier Frechette, who has an economic background, and as we found out also through the press conference, who is the daughter of a man who was a career company worker at Hydro-Québec. And one thing that you have to understand, if you're not from Quebec, is that the nationalization of energy in Quebec, which did not go over well in Alberta when a national energy program was proposed, and Quebec came from inside the province of Quebec. So, the genesis of the nationalization was different. Wasn't federal trying to nationalize provincial resources, but was the province deciding it was going to nationalize its own resources. Um, but for the province of Quebec, it is considered a crown jewel. So it's one of those things that you don't touch and that you don't destroy. And even, in the press conference, you hear lots of things. Because of Hydro Quebec, there's been a whole generations of engineers and other types of jobs that require, that level of education that come with those high-paying salaries, and a whole bunch of expertise that comes with building these types of projects that can be exported to the rest of the world. And therefore, by having nationalized, Quebec not only ensured that they had competitive hydroelectricity rates, some of the most competitive in the country for its citizens and for business production, but also developed a type of expertise that is well regarded and respected throughout the world and in high demand. So there you have it. It's so when you're the daughter of a company man from Hydro-Quebec that has the opportunity to make this type of deal, right? You take it, right? There's a legacy element to it. But if you're the premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, if you have a premier that has that history, and plus she has a very strong economic background, um, if not with Premier Frechette, with whom are you going to sign this type of deal, right? So you've got that going on, but you also have the reality that there's going to be a provincial election in Quebec on October 5th. So she's not going to be premier for long, right? So if Newfoundland and Labrador wants to get a better deal and wants to lock it in and lock it in as fast as possible, they need to do everything while she's still premier. On her end, of course, because the Coalition Avenir Québec, as you know, under François Legault, who had won 2 majority mandates, if I'm not mistaken, but after their second majority mandate, took a plummet in the polls, something terrible that it was showing at about, I think it was of March of this year, if I'm not mistaken, around there, that if an election had been held then, the Coalition Avenir Québec would go from majority government to 0 seats in the Assemblée nationale. That has changed somewhat with the arrival of Christine Frechette, who has made overall a fairly good impression and is doing the job well. The main question tends to be whether or not she has enough runway, because she was given about 6 months, maybe, right, to make a big impression. And poll wise, stuff looking pretty good uh, for her, in the sense that if we were looking at public opinion polling, the CAC hit a low of about 10% on April Fool's Day. And since she has come along, uh, she's brought the party as high as 21% in the polls. They're sitting currently at 20. If we're looking at the time she came, at the time where the CAC was at its lowest at 10%, the Parti Québécois was at 33%. They are now at 30. The Liberals were at 31%. They are now at 25. So the Liberals have lost 6, and the Parti Québécois have lost 3, which pretty much makes up for all of the CAQ gains. If you were looking at seat projections here, around the time that things were the worst for the CAQ, the PAQ was just under the majority of 64, with 63 projected seats. The Liberals were on the rise with 47 after the selection of their new leader, and the CAQ were at 0. The Parti Québécois has been under majority territory for a good while, until sometime in July, I would say, where they went back into majority territory, and a poll, the aggregate at 338, reading for August 6th showed the Parti Québécois at 68, back in majority territory above 64. But in the little bit since then, latest numbers from the 12th here that I got shows the Parti Québécois exactly at the majority at 64 here. The CAQ got up to a maximum of 12 seats here around the end of June, when that has been readjusted down. It had been readjusted down to 4 by the end of August. So some of the sheen had started disappearing, but there's a little bit of a bounce back now here, showing that the CAQ at 6. So Christine Frechette is trying to get herself something substantive that she can point to show that she's a serious leader and bring the Quebec into a new direction, similar to what Mark Carney did federally, so that if she won her first term would be considered a first term of a Christine Fréchette government, not a third term of a Coalition Avenir Québec government, which is what's happening with the Liberals. Most Canadians are viewing it because the spread is so different as um, the it's not the fourth term of a Justin Trudeau Liberal. It's the first term of a Mark Carney government, and people are seeing it that way as a fresh new government. So she's trying to hopefully create that impression there, but she's got a very short runway, right? Because the official election call is going to happen very shortly. Right now, they're not in the official election period. I think yesterday, when they made the announcement, they were about 10 days away from the official election period being called. In Quebec, the prime minister was asked a question. It's like, well, do you not think that you're opening the door for the Parti Québécois to say that you're interfering in the upcoming elections? Since this announcement has been made 10 days before the start of the official campaign period, not 10 days after. So, no. Plot twist with regards to this yesterday. This is a little of a side, but it's related because it's the Parti Québécois as well. Announced yesterday that today at around 7:30 this morning it would be making a very big announcement. And yesterday we had a guess, I guess, as to what might be announced. And we stated here, wondering if it has something to do with potentially reiterating that there will be no referendum so long as Trump is president, given the current context, or something new, right? So will it be that, or will it be something new? And then this Hadi Hassin yesterday, who I believe is a journalist for TVA Nouvelle, I believe the anchor, said that Posey Plamondon will make a, quote, important statement tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m., which is this morning, regarding the holding of a referendum on Quebec independence. The PQ later specifies that it will be made via press release and on his social media networks. Okay. And it would seem, so I was wondering if it had to do that with that, and it would seem that that is indeed somewhat the case. Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon released on X. So let me see if I can get this for you here, because at first I had a screen cap, but I want to get the full text here for you of what it is that he wrote. This is translated. It says, the Parti Québécois commits to not holding a referendum as long as Donald Trump is president. Did I call it, or did I call it? I am addressing you this morning as the leader of a party that is working tirelessly to find the path that will put Quebec back on track in the coming years. As you know, Quebec has experienced setbacks and a troubling decline in recent years. Let us think of the increase in homelessness, the retreat of French and our Quebec culture, the decline in purchasing power for a majority of us, and in general, a loss of confidence in our institutions following several scandals of squandering public funds. As you also know, many of these setbacks are linked to decisions by a federal government that is not ours and that has mocked the protests of the CAQ government, particularly on issues of taxation, French culture, and immigration policies. In short, we are a vast majority who find that our society. Let me try that again. Sorry. In short, we are a vast majority who find that our society is not heading in the right direction, and there's broad consensus in Quebec that after 8 years of CAQ government, Quebec needs real change. My God, they sound exactly like the Conservatives. After 10 years of Trudeau, after 8 years of CAQ government, after 11 years of Liberals. My God. Quebec women and men need to regain confidence and rediscover the taste for Quebec, the taste for our future. On October 5, the vote must therefore first focus on this fundamental question: who can we trust to put Quebec? Let me try that again. On October 5th, the vote must therefore first focus on the fundamental question: who can we trust to put Quebec back on the right track? It is in this spirit that I want to clarify two things today. Yes, the Parti Québécois government will consult Quebecers on Quebec independence during its first term if it is elected. This commitment on my part has been the same for now 6 years. Everyone knows it. I have always been clear and consistent on the fact that one day Quebecers will decide for themselves and that this day is approaching. I believe that independence is the only solution for Quebec to realize its full potential and escape a cultural, linguistic, and financial decline that, if we remain in Canada, is already underway. The second thing I want to clarify concerns the precise timing of this consultation. In recent months, I've already spoken about the fact that the Parti Québécois would exercise its judgment to choose the moment of the consultation, which for me went without saying, but I had not yet spoken formally on the following point. A Parti Québécois government will not hold a referendum as long as Donald Trump is president of the United States. Why? Because an issue as crucial as that of Quebec's political future requires conditions that allow for an informed and serene debate. It must not be hijacked by the upheavals of American politics, nor by the outbursts of an unpredictable president, nor by fear campaigns. That's our job. And frankly, we don't need the competition. The unpredictability of the American administration will harm our process as well as the quality of the debate on our future as a nation. Moreover, in all cases, it remains that in Quebec's current state, a government called upon to clean up the CAQ's messes will have plenty of challenges and tasks to accomplish from the start of its term. The challenges are numerous and colossal. There's a lot of work on the table. Yes, 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 indeed, yes. Because not only like this, can we not allow the president to hijack the debate and define its terms, right? But we also, that damn CAQ just did such a terrible job that we're just going to have so much to clean up that we just really couldn't get around to actually seriously holding a referendum, at least until maybe sometime in January 2028, maybe, perhaps. Has nothing to do with the fact that of all the provinces in Canada, Quebec is the one that routinely shows up in polling as being the most anti-Trump, right? And that, Quebec independence, while Trump is still the leader, would not lead to Quebec independence, but Quebec being absorbed, right? It wouldn't lead to the preservation of the French culture. It would lead to French culture and Quebec becoming like it is in Louisiana, right? 'Cause your project won't sell. So you got Paul Saint-Pierre Poliev Plamondon here, uh, basically thinking, like, hey, you know what? We know that this separation idea isn't popular, and we know that it's even less popular when Donald Trump is there. And I know that I promised you that I was going to hold this no matter what. So, but yeah, I'm just not going to hold it while the guy you don't like, that makes it pretty much guaranteed that my thing is not going to win, is still in power. Of course, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon here is assuming that Donald Trump will not try to remain after 2028. And if Donald Trump does try to remain after 2028, assuming the Parti Québécois forms government, does that mean that he's going to have to make another announcement like this in 2 years from now? That there will be no referendum in his mandate after all, because, well, Trump happens to still be president. But yeah, he doesn't have to worry about that now. He just needs to say whatever he needs to say to get him out of the current nanosecond, which was telling him for months now, because he's hinted about this, right? When he's saying there, going, it's something I've never spoken formally on, but you've hinted at it enough. You put out enough trial balloons that I was aware of it, that I could predict that this was going to be the formal announcement today. And again, right? If somebody's asking if the prime minister making that announcement with Christine Frechette and Tony Wakeham about the energy deal was election interference, well, I mean, uh, before the election date is called, this is kind of trying to set up some tables 10 days before the election date is called, right? This is talking about this issue now 10 days before, so that it's not an issue during the actual campaign, and it doesn't take campaign days away from the Parti Québécois. It doesn't start the campaign with a few days where they're off message because they're defending, well, what about Donald Trump? And when Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon only wants to talk about what the beautiful utopian future that the Parti Québécois is going to deliver for the future residents of the wannabe independent republic of New Quebec. So, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is in a bit of a sticky situation at the moment. It was looking really bad for him when the polling was indicating that he was losing this grip on the potential majority. It seems that he hasn't lost the grip on that enough that it's considered out of the question, because the way that the numbers are bouncing. So maybe he's thinking, if I make this a formal announcement, that will get me the couple of extra percentage points that I need to guarantee that I will be the next premier and that I could unleash all of this. Um, he goes on to say here, I have therefore chosen to completely diffuse the argument that this would be the worst time to reflect on our future because of Trump. By ruling out the possibility of holding a referendum before the end of his second term, we will thus be able to run a campaign on our proposals to help Quebecers and relaunch our future rather than our redundant and sterile fear arguments. Of course, the next painfully obvious follow up question is, Monsieur Plamondon, once Trump is gone, what if Trumpism isn't also gone with him? Do you think that uh, this move defuses that argument? It doesn't. Formally, this therefore means that a Parti Québécois government will not hold a referendum before January 20th, 2029, the date of the end of Trump's term at the White House, what you hope will be Trump's term at the White House. Until then, our priority remains clear: govern Quebec with consistency and restore confidence to Quebec women and men. We'll bring order back to our public services by reducing bureaucracy, tackle the cost of living crisis effectively, respond to the housing crisis, fight homelessness, put an end to the shameless waste of public funds, take care of the physical and mental health of our people, and give Quebecers back the taste for Quebec. The Parti Québécois will present you with a team of unparalleled quality to meet this challenge. As the governments of René Lévesque and Jacques Parizeau did before us, we want to give Quebecers confidence in themselves, a nation. Notice that he doesn't mention Pauline Marois. Yeah, that might cause an issue. Christine Fréchette's CAQ will have to answer for 8 years of inaction and mismanagement. We will not let them distract us in an attempt to thwart the real will for change among Quebecers. I have confidence in our ability as a people to rise up and decide for ourselves our future. I will gladly do a round of interviews today to answer questions, and with even greater pleasure that I will come to meet you during this campaign. Okay. So yeah, that's the Parti Québécois thing. Now, the other reason why the Parti Québécois is a bit of a big deal with regard to this is that if the Parti Québécois wins this election, because this is not a binding agreement, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon can pull a Tony Wakeham. Say, you know what? I don't like this deal. I'm ripping it up, and I need to renegotiate a new one again. So Tony Wakeham is taking a big gamble by saying that he's not holding the referendum, because it might be for naught if the Parti Québécois wins the election in Quebec and decides to tear up this deal and want to renegotiate another one. Now, Tony Wakeham has told the province that when he promises a referendum on something that he makes, a deal that he makes, and then he pulls it away, right, next time he makes that type of offer, not to believe him. But number two, if there was no need for him to ultimately say that there would be no referendum on this because the Parti Québécois wins in October and decides to tear up the deal, right? I guess Tony Wakeham felt the need to announce this already rather than wait to see what would happen in Quebec. That's to his credit, in terms of being transparent and honest in that sense right away. But still doesn't mean that he doesn't go back on his word, though. Right? When you promise that you're going to get a say on something, and then somebody turns around and says, "Actually, you know what? Nah, I changed my mind on that." That tends not to go over well. So there was an expenditure of political capital there, and like I said, it might be for naught ultimately, because there's absolutely nothing that stops the next government of Quebec, whoever it is, from ripping up this deal and pulling a Tony Wakeham and saying, "You know what? I don't think that this is really in the interests of the province of Quebec. No, no, I think we need to go back to the table and make that better." Still again, which will probably have Mark Carney pulling his hair out. Because it's like, can we just electrify this country already? Ah! Jeez. But yeah, provincial politics. It's the way it works, folks. So yeah, the timing here is not at all coincidental. As you can see, there are pressures on every side. Right, Newfoundland and Labrador to get a deal signed with the government in Quebec that might be amenable to signing a deal with terms that care about the well-being of Newfoundland and Labrador, because I'm sure the Parti Québécois, not really wanting to be part of Canada, doesn't give two Fs about how good the deal is for Newfoundland and Labrador, other than that it might be good enough for, other than it needs to be good enough for them to accept it for there to be a deal in the first place to exist. Let's say. Other than that, right, there's no particular interest there. Again, from the Quebec government side, to get an accomplishment that they can point to and run on during the election. On the federal side, given how the Prime Minister is really riding the horse of electrification and wanting to get this done as quickly as possible, anything that he can do to add more electricity generation, anything he can do to help that, particularly if it's green, all the better. He's all in. So again, win-win-win for everybody involved as it stands here, as they are describing it. But what does that do in the end? It says here that let's see here. The other opposition parties in Quebec are being a little more cautious for now, claiming that they want to see the terms of the deal before making a huge pronouncement. So not going as bold as the Parti Québécois has already, but indicating a certain concern that the CAQ might have agreed to anything in order to bolster their electoral chances. So, you know, did Christine Fréchette really get us the best deal that she could, or did she just agree to sign something to say, "Hey, I've got something, right? Look how effective I am." Again, cynical, but fair as an attack. There's no way to know, of course, right? But fair as an attack. That's fair game there. It's a question that's legitimate and that people can ask there. So, looking at this from the federal side, we have here the official announcement from the Prime Minister's office that a lot of them seem to start with in a more dangerous and divided world. Canada's new government is focused on what we can control, building a stronger and more independent and more sustainable country. Canada is starting from a position of strength. We have what the world wants. We have the natural resources, critical minerals, and clean power that will build this century. We have the workers and the ingenuity to turn that potential into strength. We understand we can build faster and bigger when we work together, and we have trust, the most valuable commodity in an increasingly volatile, unreliable world. We have everything we need to build the future we want. Today, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, alongside the Premier of Quebec, Christine Fréchette, the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Tony Wakeham, and the CEOs of Hydro-Québec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, I pronounced Hydro French-wise for Labrador. Let's try that again. Today, the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, alongside the Premier of Quebec, Christine Fréchette, the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Tony Wakeham, the CEOs of Hydro-Québec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, announced a historic agreement to upgrade and expand the Churchill Falls generating station and develop the Gull Island project and related transmission, building one of the largest electricity projects in North America. As part of this agreement, the federal government will provide $10 billion in federal financing to upgrade and expand the Churchill Falls generating station, develop the massive Gull Island hydroelectricity project, unlock co-investment opportunities with the Innu of Labrador and major new Labrador onshore wind projects, and build associated transmission lines. So yes, so when I mentioned the $6.54 billion government contribution, that was from one specific portion. The entire federal government contribution is at $10 billion here to all of those elements of the project together. Together, these projects represent the largest clean energy investment in North American history at nearly $70 billion. They will generate 14,000 megawatts of clean renewable power, nearly tripling the current generating capacity of Churchill Falls. That is enough power to light, heat, and cool all the homes in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver combined. So that's what I'm saying. When this is a big project, it's a big project. It's an international scale project that would get the attention of everyone. These projects will support 23,000 jobs from the skilled trades to engineering and contribute $31 billion to Canada's GDP through the early 2040s. The Labrador Trough is a world-class mining region across Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec with significant sources of high-purity iron ore. To harness the strategic asset and create high-paying careers for Canadian workers, the government announced the referral of the Labrador Trough Clean Power Critical Minerals Infrastructure Corridor to the Major Projects Office. also called, right? That there will be something referred to the Major Projects Office with regard to this. The MPO will coordinate and structure federal financing, accelerating permit. Let's try that again. The MPO will coordinate and structure federal financing, accelerate permitting requirements, and work with Indigenous peoples to forge meaningful partnerships. In addition, Canada's new government will support strategic pre-development projects in the Labrador region funded under the First and Last Mile Fund through Natural Resources Canada. This includes the following projects: the Labrador West Transmission expansion to assess the transmission infrastructure needed to connect critical minerals mining operations in Western Labrador to the electricity grid, supporting regional opportunities and mine electrification. The Kami Iron Mine Partnerships project to undertake planning and feasibility work for the transportation and energy infrastructure required for the large-scale Kami iron ore project near Wabush, Newfoundland and Labrador. And Focus Graphite's project to undertake Focus Graphite's project to undertake pre-construction work for a new transmission line and road connecting the My mistake. Let's try that again. Focus Graphite's project to undertake pre-construction work for a new transmission line and road connecting the Lac Knife Graphite project to Hydro-Québec's power grid, advancing the development of projects that will support the battery and energy storage technologies in this country and our allies need. And SFP Pointe Noire's project to expand critical mineral handling capacity and related rail infrastructure, strengthening a key transportation gateway for mining production in the Labrador Trough. We're making Canada the best place in the world to build and invest in clean energy by combining the clean economy investment tax credits, efficient project approvals, cooperating agreements with provinces and territories, strategic investments, and attractive financing. We're giving builders the certainty to build big and move fast. Today's agreement realizes the enormous potential of Canada when we build together. This is cooperative federalism at work. And there you go. We are choosing to build clean, affordable, and reliable energy systems in partnership with all Canadians for all Canadians. Mark Carney is quoted as saying here, Canada is extending its unique advantage in clean, reliable, and affordable power because when we master energy, we master our destiny. Through cooperative federalism, we are unlocking our immense potential, building big, building sustainably, and building in partnership, and building Canada strong for all. Christine Fréchette, the Premier of Quebec, says, in the current geopolitical context, it is vital for every nation to secure its energy future. I am very proud to announce today the conclusion of this new agreement, which is a priority for Quebec, particularly for generations to come. Through this partnership, we are supporting the energy transition and enabling the growth of our economy through renewable energy while ensuring our energy independence. And then, of course, Tony Wakeham says, this is a win-win-win for Newfoundland and Labrador, the federal government, and Quebec. I want to thank Prime Minister Carney and Premier Fréchette for their leadership throughout this process. We are finally replacing the notorious 1969 Churchill Falls deal and the 2024 MOU with a new deal that will guarantee us more power, more value, and more transmission. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians will finally be the primary beneficiary of our own resources with complete control over whether we use our power to develop our economy or sell to outside markets. Today is not about what we can tear up, it's about what we can build up. And it's now time for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work to build a better and brighter future for all of us. And again, Tony Wakeham, progressive conservative premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, did not have enough praise to heap on Prime Minister Mark Carney for his leadership in bringing that deal together during that press conference. So there you go. Also, in some analysis that I've heard after, again, we take his analysis with a grain of salt, Tom Mulcair, because he's not really right on a lot of things. But given that this is a home issue, Quebec specifically, and he is from there, stating here that in an interview that I saw, that even though the Prime Minister had third billing on this particular announcement, in his estimation, Prime Minister should have had top billing, because the things that he did and the role that he played in encouraging people to come together and make a deal at this point and get that out faster and give the supports that were needed for all to happen was very similar to what the Prime Minister did in British Columbia in order to ensure that the pipeline implementation agreement could go through as well. Tom Mulcair saw the parallels there, because one of the questions that was asked in the press conference after the announcement was whether or not the journalist, I'm going to guess, was from a right-wing media here, framing it as two different standards being used for the deal that was made in the West and the deal that was made in the East. But they are also two different deals, and they came to the Prime Minister in two different ways. And what the premiers were asking or open to in terms of federal participation was clearly different. But the same principles were the same. It was an idea from the provinces that was brought to the federal government that involved some jurisdictional issues with other provinces as well. It required some negotiation with at least one other province, and the prime minister came in and said, "How can I help make this happen? What do you need me to do to help you make this happen?" So, in that sense, both deals and approaches are exactly the same. There's a good idea that came from the province. The prime minister was willing to entertain it, thought it was a good idea, put backing behind it. The asks might be different. So the form that the federal support looks like different, but the constants are the same. So not sure that that was a particularly valid question. Prime Minister wasn't particularly impressed with it either, by the way, during the press conference. So yeah, 14,000 megawatts of new clean renewable power support 23,000 jobs, contribute $31 billion to Canada's GDP through 2040s, $70 billion worth of activity, clearly here as well, in terms of investment activity. So yeah, lots. Not sure exactly. Oh, okay. 23, yes. Okay, 23,000 jobs in the construction phase alone contribute 31 billion to Canada's GDP through the early 2040s. I'm going to guess that's in the construction phase alone as well. And then all the additional information, and that particularly, that's just the hydro generation. Then there's all the other capacities, because Prime Minister made a point um, in his address, not in his address, but when it was his time to have the mic. Again, things that we've been mentioning, that at some point when we have certain announcements, you can see certain puzzle pieces from different strategies coming together and starting to fit. So, with this one, um, there's a mining element here in terms of natural resources. There's an energy generation in terms of natural resources, particularly when we're talking about the wind component here. There's securing the future energy needs of provinces at competitive costs. There's again, all of this being green energy, another element. This being part of the global, our global, not the global, but our global as Canada electrification strategy, when we're considering that the amount of power that this could supply, right? Um, and of course, when we need to double our grid by 2050, which is the goal. So yeah, lots of stuff in this, different projects and different pieces where you can see the elements coming together here. Uh, some facts as well that go to support the announcement here. Um, this agreement not only advances the national electricity strategy, as we mentioned, the electrification strategy, but the Atlantic energy strategy specifically, and that was referred to the Major Projects Office in the fall of 2025. So it builds on this particular major project. And that strategy focuses on developing renewables and non-emitting energy across Atlantic Canada, onshore and offshore wind, nuclear, hydro, to meet rapidly growing demand across Eastern Atlantic Canada and beyond. So they'll probably go into the overall strategy with that Wind West project that Nova Scotia wants to generate as well, and with the role that New Brunswick would be playing on nuclear. And again, as we mentioned recently in that deal, that was made at the meeting between the premiers, the deal between Prince Edward Island and New Brunswick, to have those transmission cables that the federal government is coming in and supporting. So you can see all these all these pieces coming together for the electrification in subsequent and several announcements when you put them all together here. It says with it, about the Labrador Trough specifically. It's a world-class mining region stretching across Labrador and Quebec with significant sources of high-purity iron ore. It's a strategic asset for decarbonizing global steel supply chains, reinforcing Canada's leadership in both renewable energy and critical minerals, and giving Canada a significant competitive advantage in the transition to a cleaner economy. It says here that strategic pre-development projects in the Labrador region will be supported through the First and Last Mile Fund, which is backed by $1.5 billion in federal funding announced in Budget 2025. That fund supports infrastructure that unlocks new mines and moves Canada's resources to customers at home and abroad. Recognizing that most critical mineral deposits and enabling infrastructure projects in Canada are located on Indigenous territories, the First and Last Mile Fund makes specific funding available to enable Indigenous leadership engagement and participate throughout the mining value chain. Here it says as well that because we have the second lowest industrial electricity costs in the G7 and the OECD, and second highest share of clean electricity generation in the G7. Approximately 80% of Canada's electricity generation is not emitting. And to build on that advantage, Canada's new government will be advancing strategic investments in the modernization and expansion of the country's electricity infrastructure, including major clean economy investment tax credits for clean electricity, clean technology, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage, strategic financing through the Canada Infrastructure Bank with a $20 billion clean energy target, Canada Growth Fund, and the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program enveloped that had been doubled from $5 billion to $10 billion, and a new productivity super deduction enhanced tax incentive covering all new capital investments, which allows businesses to write off a larger share of the cost of these investments right away. So this is, like I said, a major deal here. A couple of other things from Natural Resource Canada that might give us some expanded appreciation and knowledge, not only for the ambition, but the scope of this project. It says here that this being enabled by Landmark Definitive Cooperation and Implementation Agreement, that's a DCIA, signed between Hydro-Québec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. The combined construction projects valued at nearly $70 billion represent the largest clean energy investment in North American history. It's envisioned as a key component of Canada's forthcoming national electricity strategy. The energy projects will help us meet growing energy demand and support our goal of doubling the capacity of our electricity grid by 2050. Let's see what else. It says here. Yeah, that's it. That's so just backgrounders. No actual additional information in the rest of the document here. So that's about the major parts of this. If we look at some of the coverage that this has received from the CBC, we have Juanita Mercer and Abby Cole stating here. A lot of this information might repeat. It says Ottawa's calling it the largest clean energy investment in North American history. Prime Minister Mark Carney was in St. John's Monday to announce a new agreement on Churchill Falls and other electricity projects in Labrador, alongside Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Tony Wakeham and Quebec Premier Christine Fréchette. Quote, "We are finally turning the page on one of the darkest chapters in our past and replacing both the notorious 1969 Churchill Falls Agreement and the 2024 Memorandum of Understanding with a better deal for all of us," said Wakeham. The trio of leaders gathered on Pier 17 amid a picturesque ocean background as details of the new deal were touted. Let's see here. A lot of the stuff here is stuff that I've mentioned before. There we go. Here's another thing here. It says it also seeks to help Newfoundlanders and Labradorians save more money on their electricity bills. A new 15% rebate will be given to all Newfoundland and Labrador ratepayers on their first 2,000 kilowatt hours of electricity used per month. Wakeham said this will save households an average of $351 per year. That's another part of the agreement, or part of the pot that Tony Wakeham announced yesterday. So there would be electricity rebates for the people of the province. The new tentative agreement between Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro and Hydro-Québec has some updated figures compared to the 2024 MOU signed in 2024 by Newfoundland and Labrador's previous Liberal government. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro says the deal will increase the value from Newfoundland and Labrador from the $36 billion estimated in the 2024 MOU to $49 billion in net present value. This new agreement is in effect until March 31st, 2027, unless both parties agree to change the date or unless they sign definitive agreements beforehand. The upcoming Quebec election could complicate that if another party takes power, but for now, Wakeham is calling it a win-win-win. And at one point in the press conference, the Prime Minister actually called it a win-win-win-win because he included the Innu community that is coming on to be part of this overall program. Wakeham said that this guarantees Newfoundland and Labrador more power, more value, and more transmission, a phrase he has said many times before when he was asked what he wanted to get out of Newfoundland and Labrador's negotiations with Quebec on Churchill River hydroelectric projects. There's a guaranteed transmission access of 985 megawatts through Quebec. This means Newfoundland and Labrador can sell up to that amount of Churchill River electricity by sending it through Quebec using Hydro-Quebec's transmission network and onto other markets. For example, if Massachusetts or New York needed power, Newfoundland and Labrador could sell it. The previous Churchill Falls MOU had no guarantee of transmission access, and it would be Quebec that would have first access to energy set aside for Newfoundland and Labrador, but that was not being used within the province. Newfoundlanders, whoops, sorry, I almost knocked something off my desk right there. Oh my God. Wow. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians will finally be the primary beneficiary of our own resources with complete control over whether we use our power to develop our economy or sell outside markets, Wakeham said. Today is not about what we can tear up, it's about what we can build up, he said, seeming to allude to the 2024 announcement with Quebec when former Newfoundland and Premier Andrew Furey ripped up the 1969 Churchill Falls Agreement. Within Newfoundland and Labrador, the original deal has long been criticized as lopsided in Quebec's favor. On the campaign train last fall, Wakeham vowed to put the new deal to a referendum. He said on Monday that in place of that, he will convene a special meeting of the House of Assembly on September 14th. Wakeham told reporters that deciding to not have a referendum was a difficult decision to make, but he admitted people will likely be disappointed that he's not going to move forward with his promise, but said the time is now, the urgency is there. While the previous MOU included a promise to expand Churchill Falls by adding a new powerhouse next to the existing generating facility, the new deal isn't definitive. Ottawa says it can offer funding to do so, but the new agreement between Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec says they agree to only study that potential expansion. The new deal does, however, include upgrades to current facility, increasing its capacity by 23.5% or 1,275 megawatts. The MOU signed in 2024 pegged those upgrades at 550 megawatts. In total, Newfoundland Hydro says Newfoundland and Labrador will get about 760 megawatts more power with this agreement, 2,550 megawatts versus 1,990 agreed to in the 2024 MOU. If the wind project is completed, that amount could increase up to 2,750 megawatts. Hydro-Quebec gets access to up to 6,915 megawatts or up to 8,515 megawatts if the wind project is completed. Newfoundland Hydro says Hydro-Quebec will pay 1.8 cents per kilowatt hour next year, up from the current 0.2 cents, and that price will go up 14% per year, reaching 11.5 cents in 2041. Ottawa will now also be providing a loan guarantee for Gull Island construction costs, which Mark Carney said will be part of a new Atlantic energy strategy under the Major Projects Office. The agreement also says they will study the potential development of a new wind project generating facility, but there are a few other details. In his speech, Carney said the federal government would be investing alongside the Innu Nation into a wind project in Labrador and will help finance new transmission lines. Because, yes, we love these windswept lands, said Carney, alluding to Newfoundland and Labrador's provincial anthem. Ottawa says the extra power will help grow Labrador's mining industry, and it is also providing money to bolster that development. Natural Resources Canada says Ottawa will provide more than $2.3 million to complete an engineering and design study for transmission lines that would bring more power to Labrador West. There's also $439,844 for pre-construction and feasibility planning for the Kami Iron Ore project south of Wabush. With the Quebec election expected to be called by the end of the month, reporters question Fréchette on whether this deal will last in case of new leadership. Currently, the Parti Québécois is leading in opinion polls and has spoken out against the Churchill Falls Agreement. Fréchette said that this new agreement secures more megawatts and jobs for Quebec, saying that it's in the interest of Quebecers. Quote, I see the Parti Québécois is interested in tearing up this agreement. They don't want to implement it. Okay, so what do they offer to Quebecers if that's not this agreement? Where will they find the 10,000 megawatts we are bringing to Quebec with that agreement, she said. That is what's in the agreement. It's 23,000 jobs for both Newfoundland and Quebec. And that comment by Premier Fréchette was met with a certain amount of applause, actually, when she made it. So basically asking them, it's like, listen, you don't want to go down this path? Fine. Okay. That's fine. Just tell us where you're going to pick up the extra 10,000 megawatts. Not only that, the 10,000 megawatts, but where are you going to, where else are you going to go to lock in energy security for the next 50 years at such low rates? Well, tell us your proposal. See what you got, right? So that did go over particularly well in that context there. Now, of course, it was in St. John's, and there has been a very, very, very long wait to correct this uh, believed to have been an injustice. So, um, you know, uh, probably very, very happy to put an end to this, or actually or otherwise maybe to move forward here. Um, Now, of course, um, this was a very, very big announcement. Like I said, the size and the scope of this is massive. Um, a lot of the prime minister says that, for example, it's a nation building uh, investment on the scale of the Trans Canada Highway and St. Lawrence Seaway. Is the way that he sees it here. Um, with regard to climate, um, this is the part of the where he was asked about this in the question that kind of explains a little bit his philosophy. Like I said, uh, doing it via actions, via rather than via broad targets or policy statements.
We're living through the consequences of a world that collectively hasn't taken climate change seriously enough. Canada will do our part, not with promises and pronouncements, but with bold actions and major investment.
So that was the Prime Minister's sort of take on that. Again, I keep on saying it, but I really wish he would just come up and make an environment speech and explain his philosophy and his approach, particularly given the current situation. Let's see, where do I want to go next with this? I guess we could sort of start talking about the U.S. stuff, because this kind of it kind of blends in one way. Because as you know, right now, tomorrow is the day that uh, the new tariffs, 50% or so, um, will go on a certain number of nations, about 60 nations. That's the United States has decided threatens them somehow for whatever reason they've chosen this time, because every reason is pretty much a pretext. This announcement is kind of bold in the sense that tomorrow we could find out that there are 50% tariffs that applies to about 5% of our economy, about $28 billion in economic activity, and that the United States might have learned a little bit from Canada, because when we retaliated the last two times the United States did this, we tried to pick specific things in specific states that would affect specific leaders. The United States seems to have maybe borrowed a page from us on this time, because if you go through the list of the things that will be affected, the province of British Columbia would see an effective tariff rate of about 13% on its on things that are affected in this particular list. Quebec 10% and Ontario 9%. Well, these are the three provinces that have been most steadfast in standing up against the president. The provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan about 1%. So no wonder they're not all on board with maybe wanting to have either tariffs or export taxes on potash or energy. They're not they're not being hit by this one. So there is obviously some divide and conquer being attempted here. Don't know how well it is going to work, but yeah, it's no, listen, it's not the best situation to be in. We know that it can be just as likely that Trump is going to taco, like he could actually go through with it. He could go through with it and leave it on for a week or two to see if that makes us bend the knee and then pull it off. There's lots of things that he could be doing, and for us to sit up at night and wait and be concerned or be um, living in fear of what else is going to happen uh, doesn't really serve us very well. And what's really interesting is even the behavior of businesses, because when Trump's Liberation Day tariffs came down and were coming down, there was a lot of people that pre-bought a lot of inventory and shipped it before all these tariffs could take place. Uh, that didn't really happen this time. There's some people who did it, but there's a lot of people that just said, if the tariffs hit, we'll just deal with it then, because there's a good chance that they may not hit. So there's a lot of people, a lot more people that are taking the risk this time around, which is kind of interesting. So for Canada, uh, facing that type of potential hit to the economy, going up and making this big announcement about our future and showing that much confidence in our future, in our abilities, definitely sends a message to the United States that not only are we negotiating from a position of strength, but we're not particularly bothered by what it is that they can do to us. Now, let's be absolutely clear. The industries that are being targeted will be devastated. A lot of these industries and a lot of these tariffs, you know, there are certain regions where certain these industries that are going to be affected and might be completely decimated are one industry regions, one industry towns. And they're going after those, which again could turn people's mood against its government very quickly. So the United States are coming for us here, right? This is not just haphazard or whatnot. They are literally coming for us on this one. And you know what? Like I said, we're presenting a good face of being unfazed. So, um, we need to deal with that. Yesterday at the press conference, Mark Carney was being asked a lot of questions about this. It's not something he particularly wanted to speak about because he wanted to speak about the big deal going on here. But there's a couple of moments here, and we will bring you this one here, where the Prime Minister is asked, "Will you stand up to Trump?"
Est-ce que vous arrivez à tenir tête à Donald Trump?
Will you stand up to Mr. Trump?
Écoutez, pardon. Nous sommes en train de
Listen,
négociations très
we
intenses et
are
délicates.
involved in
C'est
very
pas le
delicate
moment
and
d'avoir une
intense
négociation
negotiations.
en public.
This is not the time to
c'est ça.
negotiate in public, so
Mais
it's very
point
simple.
final. C'est le point de début et le point final dans ce contexte. On a
And
des
that's the
options.
beginning and the end,
On a
in
des
the sense
options
that
ici au
we have
Canada.
options
Ici
here in
au
Canada,
Terre-Neuve, au Québec,
both in
dans
Newfoundland,
l'ensemble
in
du
Quebec,
Canada.
and right
Nous
across
sommes
the
maîtres
country.
chez nous.
We
can make
are
the
masters
weather.
of
We are
our own
making the
house.
weather. We are taking action. Et c'est d'une... nous sommes en train de négociation
And
d'une
we are in
position
the middle of a negotiation, and we are coming to that negotiation from a position of strength.
So you can see here the Prime Minister not really willing to entertain these questions here. Not the time. Um, Sorry, kids and cubs, everything went fuzzy there. Now I'm trying to fix the camera there. Not the time, not the focus. We're in the middle of the, probably some of the most intense moments in the negotiating process. Not, this is probably not the moment here to be having these types of discussions or to be answering these questions. But how to put it? Let's see here. I'll give you a couple more here. People wondering, like I said, will you stand up to Trump? Well, if you're going to stand up to Trump, you're going to have something to hit back with, right? So what's it looking? Are you prepared? What's it looking like? Do you have plans for any retaliation or counter tariffs or anything of that sort? And we have the Prime Minister.
I understand that you don't want to talk about tariffs today, but I want to put the question to you again because Canadians are wondering, if new tariffs are imposed on Canada on Wednesday, do you have a plan to help businesses? Are you also considering reciprocal tariffs? Yes, I have plans. I have plans for any situation that may arise.
Again, you see the look on his face, right? That little smile at the end. And I've got plans for any situation that'll arise. Boom. And just letting it sit there with that. Also asked with regard to what's going on with the United States, what a good deal would look like. Again, one of those questions, trying to get the Prime Minister to negotiate in public and revealing those things. And again, we get an answer from the Prime Minister that is as circumspect as possible, given that he really does not want to say anything about this at this particular time because it's sensitive.
What does a good deal for Canada look like with the United States on this?
Frankly, we'll have opportunities over the next 48 hours to discuss in more detail as the negotiations go forward, and I think that's the best forum. The most important thing happening this week in Canada is today's announcement.
Boom. Again, Prime Minister repeatedly trying to bring the focus back. However, as we mentioned on the previous show, the Prime Minister seems to be out of F's to give when it comes to Donald Trump and potentially managing his fifis. And in this case here, we have another example. I think last week we had an example of Mark Carney referencing to another world leader whose teleprompter didn't work and unlike him wasn't going to consider it a conspiracy theory. Just a little jab there. Well, we have another one here. Like I said, Prime Minister can't be feeling terribly unconfident about his position if he is willing to say certain things like this, for example.
Do you expect to speak with the U.S. president before Wednesday's tariff deadline? And if so, what will your message be for President Trump?
The short answer is yes. Secondly, I'm sure the first thing we'll talk about is this historic investment. And I say that in all seriousness. The scale of what this is, in terms of the 14,000 megawatts of clean power, the 23,000 plus jobs in the construction phase alone of the power, but also in opening up the Fosse de Labrador, the Labrador Trough, the enormous resources in critical minerals, iron ore, the extra 16,000 jobs in the construction phase of that. The way this is being conducted is the type of generational investment that gets everyone's attention even the President of the United States. Maybe I'll translate "met chez nous" for the President as well, which is a lesson. And then we'll have a good discussion about the opportunities together. Thank you.
Do you expect to speak with the U.S.?
Maybe I will explain to the President what masters in our own domain actually means. And then we'll get on to discussing the deal. Wow. There's a little cockiness there, gotta say. Sassy going, is he in St. John's, Newfoundland? I swear I recognize the slope of the hill behind him. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Get Sassy. Your eyes do not deceive you. You recognize exactly well. So there you go. So yeah, we have this situation going on with the United States. There's been, it's really hard to know where things stand, right? How would you put it? They're still talking, right? And there is no reality in which the TV president is not going to, how would you put it? Use the opportunity to play the cliffhanger, right? We are going to be held on to this to the last possible second before we get any idea of whether or not Trump is serving up tacos for dinner or something else, and how many shots of tequila we're going to need to wash it down. Right. But according to John Paul Tasker, the talks are continuing. Prime Minister Mark Carney said last-minute negotiations with the U.S. to avoid a fresh batch of tariffs due to take effect this week are, quote, indelicate and intense, and he plans to speak to his American counterpart in the next 48 hours to broker a mutually agreeable deal. And really, that's when it matters, really, because as we know, you can negotiate an entire deal, and then you present to Donald Trump, and you say, what do you think about that? And then he, makes a last condition or whatnot that blows up everything else, right? So none of this, it matters, but it doesn't matter really until them two are talking about and they're going to hammer it. It doesn't matter in the sense that Trump is threatening us, but hey, he has also all his best officials available there plenty of times to have as many meetings with us as seem to be necessary in this final phase. So is that the behavior of someone who's looking to stick it to us, or looking for some type of exit route to get some type of win he can claim and point to, especially fewer than 100 days to midterms? We don't know. It's literally Schrodinger's negotiating deal with these people. Speaking to reporters in St. John's on Monday, where he announced a landmark hydroelectricity deal with Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador, Carney said he was reluctant to publicly discuss how talks are going to avoid U.S. President Donald Trump's threatened Section 338 tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Canadian goods. Quote, we are involved in very delicate and intense negotiations. This is not the time to negotiate in public. We're in the middle of a negotiation, and we are coming into those negotiations from a position of strength. Asked if he has plans to hit back against Trump if the two sides fail to reach a deal awarding these new levies, Carney says he's ready for any possible scenario. Trump and Carney spoke on the phone Monday afternoon about the ongoing trade negotiations, according to Audrey Champoux, a spokesperson for the Prime Minister. She did not provide further details of the conversation. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Canada's chief trade negotiator Janice Charette have held series of talks with the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer over the last 3 weeks to not only avoid the planned Section 338 tariffs, but lower also the existing Section 232 tariffs on industrial projects like steel, aluminium, autos, and lumber in exchange for some Canadian concessions. LeBlanc and Charette met with Greer and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on Monday afternoon for what was their longest meeting so far, clocking in at about an hour and 45 minutes. The fact that Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who probably might person who really does have the ear of Donald Trump, is a new addition, and a lot of people are interpreting that as a sign that the talks are getting more serious and more intense here, rather than complicated or adversarial. A source with direct knowledge of the negotiations said prior to the meeting that it was expected to be the final one at the ministerial level. However, following the meeting, it was unclear whether that remained true. Another source with direct knowledge of the talks said after the meeting that Canadian officials could see Greer again before Carney and Trump speak ahead of Wednesday's tariff deadline, but another meeting with Greer is not currently scheduled, the source said. The source told CBC News that the American negotiating team was going to see Trump after Monday's meeting with Canadian officials. CBC News is not identifying the sources because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the talks. Speaking briefly to reporters outside Greer's Washington office after the talks, LeBlanc said, "We're going to continue working. Our job is not yet done." After the bilateral meeting, a White House official told CBC News that the president has pledged, quote, "to put a stop on foreign cheating and to put American workers, farmers, and businesses first. The administration continues to work with our trading partners towards fair trade agreements," the official said. I think somewhere in the background there was yet another tariff that's coming that probably includes Canada as well in the works. So there's three of them in all at the moment that I'm aware of, and the 50% one is just one. There's a 50% one that doesn't include Kuzma stuff. There's a 10 and a 12.5% one. I think 10 for certain nations, 12.5 for another. That does have the Kuzma exemptions, and then there was another one that I just heard of yesterday. For I think it is being routes that help transit goods that were made in China that should not be sold or something like that. I don't know, whatever reasons. They're just finding whatever pretext, because remember, their goal is to just build that tariff wall that the Supreme Court struck down. And by any way, they're going to try to do that. And again, a lot of these could fail in court. Again, these ones here could fail in court as well, because they've never been used in this particular way before. And they have not done the studies as specific as they should be to be able to justify imposing these tariffs in the first place. So these could be taken to court. There's a chance that these could lose in court. But again, when we saw how long it took the first ones to go through court and lose, about a year or so, a lot of damage can be done in that year before that decision comes down. Right? And these ones are less guaranteed than the other ones, that they could be overturned. But somebody has already brought this to court. Says here, at issue in these negotiations is just how much Canada can get out of the U.S. in exchange for a series of concessions of its own. The Americans want U.S. liquor back on the shelves of provincially run stores. BC says they're not going to do that unless there's anything in the deal with regard to lumber. The Americans are explicitly not wanting to talk about lumber in any way, shape, or form. They consider it as something completely different. Tradition would show that that's the case, because whenever we ask the question, have we ever had free trade with the United States? No, because there's always been a damn lumber issue that never, ever, ever, ever gets resolved. Ever. Yes, the United States clearly consider lumber different. They've been making that very clear for like 30 years or so, at least, if not more. Not sure how the United States is going to get their alcohol returned on shelves unless they're going to willing to be talking about lumber in any way, shape, or form. But there's a bit of an impasse there. The Trump administration is also pushing for Canada's retaliatory tariffs on U.S. autos removed, and tweaks to how the supply-managed dairy sector allocates quotas with regard to the retaliatory tariffs on U.S. autos removed. It seems that there has been some talk that the United States has been offering to reduce its tariffs from 25% to 15%. But as we mentioned on the show, that 25% was a level that was so high that anything above, it was ridiculous. Anything above 15% pretty much was already damaging enough. So from removing them from 25 to 15, even though it reduces the number, adds no material benefit whatsoever. So Canadians are looking maybe for that to be dropped to 5 or 10 or something like that, something a little more absorbable. The United States doesn't look to be doing that or wanting to give that there. And we don't know if there's anything else on the other hard hit sectors. However, we believe that there might be willingness to agree on aluminium, if not steel and aluminium, but aluminium, just because the United States needs it so badly at the moment. And there's a place where we can decide to play a little hardball if we wanted to. A lot of people are saying that that's the last place we should make a concession, because that's the place that's hurting the Americans the most at the moment. So we'll see. Still, in an interview with CBC News, Erin O'Toole, a member of the Prime Minister's Canada-US Advisory Committee, said Canada has made some progress with the Americans. It's just a question of whether Trump will agree to any lower tariffs rates brokered by Greer and if those levies are palatable to the Canadian industries most affected. Quote, we're not just going to take what they throw at us. We have to forge a deal that is fair for Canadian workers and good for our economy. The former Conservative leader said if Trump's latest 50% tariffs take effect this week as planned, Canada will have no choice but to respond in kind. O'Toole said Canada is already drawing up plans to hit back at this aggressive act if it comes to pass. Quote, what's so short-sighted about tariffs is that it leads to these tit-for-tat wars of response. It hurts both economies and workers, so let's hope we can avoid that, he said. And again, he also had praise for the Prime Minister and the Canada's negotiating team in the room there. So that's also nice because, again, given that he does come from a different political movement. This is not like it's harder to say that it's a bought and paid for opinion or that Erin O'Toole's a liberal now. That won't stop conservatives from saying that, right? But yeah, absolutely here. Says here, let's see, he did. This is from Maki Abugu. Says here, this endorsement will surprise a lot of people. Erin O'Toole actually has some stuff out there, memes and stuff called Weather the Storm. Quote, we have to be united as a country and strategic. But it says here that, let's see, Erin O'Toole spent years fighting the Liberals. Now the former Conservative leader is saying Mark Carney's team is doing, quote, a very good job at handling Donald Trump and Canada's increasingly difficult trade relationship with the United States. That matters because this is not praise coming from inside the Liberal Party. It's coming from a former Conservative leader who says he criticized Liberals through most of his parliamentary career. O'Toole's message is essentially this. Canada is dealing with a political and economic storm coming out of Washington, and the country needs to stay united, strategic, and focused on getting the best deal possible. He described the Trump administration as a hurricane Canada has to navigate. That may sound dramatic, but look where negotiations stand. Only yesterday, Canadian government source said talks with Washington were progressing well and that the U.S. also wanted an agreement before the August 19th tariff deadline. But the latest political messaging is noticeably more cautious. The screenshot itself reports that the federal government now believes a deal is not imminent, and that's an important distinction. The talks may be constructive. Both sides may want an agreement, but wanting a deal and actually having the terms to close one are two very different things. Trump is still threatening new 50% tariffs on nearly $20 billion, $28 billion, that's $20 billion US, worth of Canadian imports beginning in August 19th. The measures would affect roughly 5.2% of US goods imports from Canada in 2025 and could hit goods that normally qualify under CUSMA. Canada is also trying to get relief from tariffs already hitting major sectors like steel, aluminium, and autos, and that's where negotiations remain difficult. Reuters reported this week that Canadian officials weren't happy with Washington's latest offer because the tariff reductions being proposed did not go nearly as far as Ottawa wanted. So when O'Toole says Canada needs to be united and strategic, I think the emphasis should be on the word strategic, because the temptation in a trade fight is to turn everything into partisan politics. Liberals blame conservatives, conservatives blame liberals, premiers blame Ottawa, Ottawa blames Washington. Meanwhile, businesses are trying to figure out whether they should hire, invest, expand, or hold back. That's where the real cost starts. Uncertainty itself can damage an economy. A manufacturer considering new Canadian plant now has to ask whether access to the US market will still be predictable 5 years from now. An auto supplier has to think about whether the rules will change again. A steel producer has to decide whether today's tariffs are temporary part of a new permanent trade model. And investors notice all of this. That's why getting a deal matters. But I also think Canada has to resist signing a weak agreement simply because August 19th is approaching. If Ottawa gives up meaningful leverage only to avoid the latest tariff threat while leaving the biggest existing tariffs largely intact, that would not be much of a victory. O'Toole is right that Canada can weather this, but weathering it does mean not pretending the economic damage is small. The U.S. market remains enormously important to Canadian jobs, exports, and investment. At the same time, this entire confrontation is showing why Canada needs more options, more internal trade, more customers in Europe and Asia, more energy export capacity, more critical minerals processing, more domestic manufacturing, more infrastructure connecting Canadian businesses to non-US markets. Because even if Carney's team reaches an agreement next week, the broader uncertainty is not disappearing. The United States has already signaled it wants major changes to North American trade and may continue using tariffs as part of that strategy. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer has said that Washington is looking for interim arrangements with Canada and Mexico through the end of 2026 while the bigger CUSMA issues remain unresolved. That tells you this fight could last much longer than August 19th. And maybe that's the most important part of O'Toole's comments. Canada cannot treat this as one Liberal government negotiating with one Republican administration. This is becoming a structural question about Canada's economic future. How dependent should Canada remain on the United States? How much domestic capacity should Canada build? How aggressively should Canada diversify? And when Washington applies economic pressure, how should Canada respond without damaging itself in the process? Those questions are bigger than any political party. So when a former Conservative leader who spent years attacking Liberals says the current negotiating team is doing a very good job, I think it's worth paying attention. That does not mean Carney gets a blank check. The final agreement still has to be judged on its merits, but in a moment this serious, there's value in Canada approaching Washington as a country first and a collection of political parties second. Because the tariff bill will not ask whether a worker voted Liberal or Conservative. Neither will the factory closure. Neither will the lost investment. Canada has every reason to fight internally over policy, but when another country is using access to its market as leverage, division at home only makes the leverage stronger. A deal may not be imminent. Let's try that again. A deal may not be imminent. The storm is not over. And the next few days will tell us whether Canada's strategy can turn all these meetings into something business and workers can actually rely on. We'll see. But yeah, very thought-provoking commentary there. Couple things want to bring you before we leave today. One is a comment by Annie Dufour, a really great journalist. If you are not following her, you should. If you're on X, Annie Dufour 99. Very thoughtful, considered commentary. Hopefully, we will have her as a guest on our show soon enough. Also, Kids and Cubs have been talking to Olga Nestorova, and hopefully we might have her at some point near the end of the week. Annie Dufour has two comments here that can be listed here as really worth your time. And just looking for them because I thought I had bookmarked them, but it seems I have not. So here it is. This one is Annie Dufour, who did a little bit of analysis of the deal between Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador. Says Churchill Falls signed plus 40% of Quebec hydro and a bomb for 10% for 100 years of resentment. Win-win. That's how the interested parties describe the agreements between Quebec and Newfoundland being signed today in St. John's for the development of the Churchill Falls power station in Labrador. Right off the bat, the bounty of electricity for each province is significantly increased by a lot compared to the previous agreement that fell through. Nearly 40% more for Quebec and between 25 to 60% more for Newfoundland and Labrador, according to Radio-Canada. 40% is 7 times the production of La Romaine power station, and in the broader perspective, this additional contribution amounts to 27% of the province's total electricity production. A wind power component is being added to the project, further boosting its appeal. The PQ leader is both wrong and right. The PQ leader calls it a fire sale deal negotiated by Christine Fréchette at the 11th hour. He's wrong and right at the same time. A fire sale, given the gains we've just described, one can doubt it. What's more, Hydro-Québec isn't in as strong a position as one might hope. After years of low precipitation, reservoir levels are down. Yes, that's one of those things that we have to wonder, right? We're bragging a lot about climate change and how 80% of our hydro in Quebec is green. But what if it stops raining, or what if the water evaporates? Then you need a backup, don't you? This forces Hydro-Québec to buy electricity from outside the province to meet demand. In its latest 2025 annual report, it's clear that Hydro-Québec had to ramp up its out-of-province purchases by 62%, while the price of those purchases doubled 100%. Wow. So they increased their purchases from 9.4 terawatts to 15.2 terawatts hour, and the purchase price has more than doubled from 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour to 7.6 cents by kilowatt hour. That said, Plamondon was right to say it's the 11th hour because with elections looming and polls putting them in power, the potential to seal a deal could go up in smoke. PM Christine Fréchette even warned her Newfoundland counterpart about it. No doubt Mark Carney, who was present for the signing, anticipated the same risk and threw his full political weight behind facilitating and speeding up the agreement. Enter Mark Carney. Hydroelectricity, clean, renewable energy needs no promotion. It's a major trump card, period, a pinnacle of excellence for Quebec and Canada. PM Carney knows it, and he intervened with both parties to bring them closer using diplomacy and financial aid. As such, he extended the 15% investment tax credit for hydroelectric products. Let's try that again. As such, he extended the 15% investment tax credit for hydroelectric projects, which was set to expire in 2035 for this initiative, a road strewn with bitterness and pitfalls. Reaching an agreement took all the time it needed for nearly 100 years of mutual grievances between the two provinces to nearly dry up. Quebec, for one, has never fully accepted losing Labrador territory in whole or in part since the Privy Council of London awarded it to Newfoundland in 1927. More recently, the PQ called it a historical injustice demanding compensation, financial or political. Newfoundland, meanwhile, resents Quebec for the 1969 deal under which the Crown Corporation Hydro-Québec built Churchill Falls using its own funds, but then bought back the electricity it produced for Newfoundland at a bargain basement price well below market rates. Every good news story has its detractors, and already the sovereigntists are talking about reneging on the deal if they win the election. And do you think they should break this agreement? Asks Annie Dufour. So there. And some people reacting to this, going, very good analysis of the situation. I still have in my head the abyssal debt of Muskrat Falls, and who's going to continue to finance this project, for which the Fed has given a loan guarantee of $5 billion, that TNL can send electricity to the USA. We'll see. And that comes from Jean-François Morin here, who made that comment here. But again, so very interesting elements with regard to that. With regard to the decision, the announcement of Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon about the referendum, Annie Dufour, second comment that I want to read to you today. And again, she can expand on a wide variety of subjects. It's one of the reasons I enjoy her writing. The PQ conditions the referendum on Trump, the admission that an isolated Quebec would be precarious. By conditioning a referendum on Trump's departure, the PQ proves that Quebec needs Canada and that without it facing headwinds, its future would prove precarious. For decades, the sovereigntist movement has told us that independence would make Quebec stronger, that being smaller means being bigger, that cutting the bridges of a river has no impact on how one crosses it, that an independent Quebec would negotiate each international treaty better than Canada because Quebec, turned inward on itself, would only think of its own interests. Rarely does the PQ speak to us of the other side of the mirror, how the international community in turn would perceive us, a minor league player whose economic, diplomatic, and military leverage would have melted away many times over. Europe, made up of medium, small, and tiny states, has well understood this power dynamic and has united under the aegis of the European Union, sacrificing a bit of sovereignty for greater security, both economic and vital. The PQ, consciously or not, admits the Achilles heel of independence through this accommodation to the danger posed by Donald Trump. Nothing guarantees a return to normalcy in American politics. The social fabric of the United States has deeply changed. Note the scant resistance from Americans. The streets are almost always empty of protests to the erosion of their democracy. MAGA will survive Trump because it engendered Trump. Moreover, the threat comes from everywhere. Autocrats are rising at the four corners of the globe, and the militarization of countries continues to grow unabated. So what would a small, isolated, and alone Quebec do then? Again, Annie Dufour, asking good questions and putting things in some very thoughtful and considered context. So there you go, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us because it's really important that you do. And since we are talking here, kids and cubs, you might notice a little change of decor here. We got the Acadian flag up today because on the 15th was Canada's, National Acadian Day, Journée Nationale de l'Acadie, where all the Acadians and Acadians celebrate all the work that they have done to maintain their language and their culture and keep it vibrant. I'm sorry if you were hearing the sound. It seems that there's a fire alarm warning going on for some reason. My Beaver sweetie has just taken care of it, so I'm guessing that we're not in danger because he hasn't come to tell me to get out of the house. So yes, Acadia Day. We celebrate the vibrancy and the longevity of the French-speaking community in the Acadian provinces, and just have a little snippet here from CBC. Whoops, I should maybe have the right feed there in order to mark the occasion. So let's give you a little bit of this good stuff here.
Yeah, well, today is our national celebration. We've been celebrating the Quinze since probably 20 years ago, probably, on the same format with a mass and then activities here. Last couple of years also we have people different age. We have young families, kids and so on. We've been having a Tintamarre for the last 15, 20 years. And the more we make noise, probably the merrier the people are.
It's just like make a lot of noise to make people aware of our culture and like what we went through, and just like a kind of part of the celebration.
Or it means a lot to me because, you know, being Acadian, we enjoyed that.
We're proud to be Acadian, but we have that special day where we're even prouder to be Acadian, but we're proud to be Acadian 365 days a year. But today it's kind of our celebration. It's like Christmas. So.
And when you celebrate Acadian Day, who do you think of?
Our ancestors and how they survived and, you know, went through hardship, and just it's good to celebrate them, and we're here today because of them.
Well, I like Acadian, so that's the red, white, and blue, and the star that I have here.
It's part of our heritage, and I think it's good to celebrate culture, and it brings everyone together in the community.
I will be coming every year till I get to 200.
I like that. I like that. I like someone that wants to live to 200. That's a vim and a zest for life. So yes, le bleu, blanc, rouge with, of course, the golden star, which is the flag of the Acadian people here. According to Justin Dupuis of Radio-Canada Information, this is in French, so hopefully I will be able to translate as we go. It says it's a national Acadian. It's the national day for Acadians in the four corners of New Brunswick have come down to the street to make some noise, a manner of celebrating their culture and to make resonate their presence in the only officially bilingual province in Canada. So that's what you saw, the parade with everybody making noise. That's called le Tintamarre, which is a traditional activity here. Tintamarre means essentially it's French for making a big racket. So letting you know that they're here and they're present. Everywhere in the province, activities are organized to underline or to celebrate the 15th of August. On Saturday, hundreds of people gave rendezvous to each other in Bouctouche at 2:30 p.m. for the Tintamarre in this community of the southeast of New Brunswick. He says, we're here for the Tintamarre. The Tintamarre is the celebration of Acadie. That is what gets started to say, we are here, we are celebrating, and we are not afraid to say it. It's very important, explained Ronald Leblanc, who says he has participated in this event since its beginnings. For the mayor of Grand Bouctouche, Aldeo Saunier, the 15th of August is a day that is very special because in the 1990s, when we started the Tintamarre, we were a little group of about 50 people, and today we hope that about 2,000 people are going to march with us, explains Mr. Saunier. The Premier, of New Brunswick, Susan Holt, was a part of the celebrations. We are here to celebrate the Acadian Day, the National Day of Acadians, and to demonstrate that Acadian culture and traditions, well, we let them live here in New Brunswick. The Acadian culture is an important part of our identity as New Brunswickers, she said. Of course, there were big concerts and parades and all that kind of stuff. So it was a wonderful day full of color, love, laughter. There was about 20,000 people attending in Caraquet in the Acadian Peninsula there. There, the Tintamarre had about 15,000 to 20,000 people participating in that one. So that must have been one heck of a racket there. So there you go. Journée nationale de l'Acadie. Just a little bit there that we have. And the Prime Minister, of course, made a statement on the day. Today, on National Acadian Day, we celebrate the identity and resilience of the Acadian people. Acadians are one of the oldest Francophone communities in North America, settling in what is now Atlantic Canada over 4 centuries ago. Their story is one of hardship met with perseverance. Beginning in 1755, British colonial authorities drove them from their land, and in the generations since, they rebuilt their communities while protecting and celebrating their language, culture, and traditions. That resilience has helped shape the identity of Canada itself. The Government of Canada is a strong partner to Acadian communities in their mission to protect their heritage and promote French language. Starting this year, we are investing $5 million over 5 years to support National Acadian Day celebrations. Throughout the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, we are helping Acadian and Francophone businesses grow and break into new markets. We are also raising Francophone immigration targets outside Quebec so that Canadian employers can find the French-speaking talent they need to grow their businesses. As part of our bid to host the Summit de la Francophonie in 2028 in the National Capital Region, we look forward to the opportunity of welcoming delegations from across the French-speaking world and showcasing the vitality of the French language in Acadie and across the country. Building Canada strong means celebrating the languages and traditions of all Canadians for more than 400 years. Acadians have shown us that a proudly embraced identity is a source of strength for the entire country. Happy National Acadian Day. And there you go, kids and cubs. Very, very important there. And glad that we had a chance to mention it. And I'm going to keep the flag up all week because I can. So there you go, to celebrate our Acadians and Acadians because they contribute so much to the vibrancy of our culture. And no better people, just brilliantly beautiful, wonderful, welcoming, warm people. If you never had the opportunity to spend some time in the French part of Atlantic Canada and enjoy the hospitality, you really need to. I highly recommend it. Oberon is giving me big smiles. Hi, Oberon. How are you, cutie? Oh, I love babies. Oh my God, the kids, they're growing up. Saucy going, I just noticed Douglas switched his flag. See, I do it. I do it quietly and discreetly. I'm demure about it. So yeah, bonne fête de l'Acadie, kids and cubs. If you would like to support us, well, there's a few ways you can do that. One is by scanning this QR code that will bring you to our YouTube page if you're not already there, where you can click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. You can click on the notification bell and select all, so that way you get notices when we have some new content put up there. And of course, if you are not watching live, but you happen to be watching on your phone and tablet fewer than 7 days after the original broadcast, if you swipe left on the comment section, you can offer us some hype points that allows smaller audience channels like ours to gain more viewership. Thank you for everything that you do. As you may be noticing, those of you who follow our show counts, we are on a little bit of an advertising blitz this month, and it has been showing in our numbers. Fortunately, we have been growing. We're coming in at 31,600 subscribers now. So hopefully we'll get more and more, and more people will join the Dan fam a little more regularly because we like to grow. We like to expand. So thank you for all you are doing there. And if you would like to support us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. Just the flag budget right? If you like the different flags and you want me to buy more flags, P.S. Send money. But really, if you like what we do and you think that it has value, it resonates with you, and you want to encourage us to do more, please scan that QR code and that will bring you to our coffee page, coffee.ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there you can offer us a little tip in the emergency hydration fund, which is our tip jar, a mug of hot chocolate for yours truly, or a cup of hot coffee for Mr. Grizzly. That's our staff. They help us with the show, but our staff keeps disappearing. So please help us find more staff by making a contribution to our fund. We get about 95 to 97% of your donation when you do that, and we thank you so much. You can also donate via YouTube by buying a membership or using some stickers or super chats. We get about 70% of your donation there. And if you're doing the buy Canadian thing and you're avoiding the USCE Tech Bros, all you need to do is send a direct transfer from your bank to ours using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And there are no fees for that whatsoever. And we get 100% of your transaction, which is another win-win. I'm just saying. There you go. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Kids and Cubs. I guess that's it for that part. Because democracy is something that you do remember, kids and Cubs, that we have some by-elections coming up, both in the province of Ontario, September 3rd, in Scarborough Southwest, York Simcoe, and the third one is escaping me. Oh my God, that's terrible. I thought I had them down pat by now, but I do not. I am so sorry, kids and Cubs, but hopefully I can get that third one for you. Scarborough Southwest, York Simcoe, and Hamilton East, Stony Creek. Of course, how can I forget Hamilton East, Stony Creek? And federally, of course, in North Vancouver, Capilano, Chicoutimi-Lafiard, and Beaches, East York. Please find out about your candidates. Please plan your vote. Please send some requests to either Election Ontario or Elections Canada. If you can work at a polling station, do all of that good stuff and plan your vote. Make sure that you vote August 31st, federal by-elections, September 3rd, provincial by-elections in Ontario. And of course, kids and Cubs, again, if you have a favorite candidate, campaign for them, but do make sure that you plan your vote. It's very, very important. In the province of Alberta, it seems that they are having a little difficulty finding the 60,000 people that they need for their October 19th referendum, which has a lot of people writing some biting commentary about a province that claims to be independent, needing outside help to be able to staff its own referendum on whether or not it wants to vote, on whether or not it even wants to be independent. I should not laugh at other people's dreams. But come on, you gotta admit it's kind of funny. So that's going on too. But again, if you're in Alberta, remember you can order your kit in advance when that becomes available to vote in that referendum, which may save you some time and some frustration at the ballot box itself if you were going to show up in person. So keep an eye out for that when those kits become available. We also have Kits and Cubs, since we talked a little bit about trade, that petition involving Ambassador Hoekstra. And last time we looked, I think we had crossed just 100,000 signatures. We haven't been here for a few days, so I wonder what it's been doing in the meantime. This is ourcommons.ca petition number E7531. So you go there and you sign the petition. Now remember, when you're signing an ourcommons.ca petition, you've got to sign the petition, and then you will get an email validation that you need to click. And once you do that, then your petition will be considered signed by you. So there we have the link in the chat. But let's take a little total, because we had just crossed 100,000, I think it was, right? And let's see what we have now. Oh my. Gee, yeah, that's a lot. 227,564. Again, I'm hoping that there's somebody out there that is doing some research to figure out what the highest number of signatures ever gotten on a House of Commons petition is. But given that we're at 227,000 and that petition keeps going until November 18th, there's potential for that to get to so many more. So many more. And again, I'm telling you, kids and cubs, democracy is something that you do circulate this petition and have it signed, because every signature on that is a piece of leverage for our prime minister in that negotiating room. All right. There you go. Kit Elaine go, we are big, rich, and tough enough to go it alone. Can someone help us with our referendum? I keep on imagining the little 3-year-old kid, with the stick and the little pouch on the back of it. I'm running away from home. Dinner will be ready at 6. See you then. Have fun. I really mean it this time. Okay, we're making your favorite mac and cheese. Uniquely Jillian, the irony is killing me. I know, right? Hey. Believe in your dreams. Believe in your dreams, kids. That's all I'll say. I feel bad because it's like, the people who are invested in this are really like, no matter how misguided they are, they may or may not be, are really, really, really invested in this. They care about this a lot. They're putting a lot of capital into this. And, to just bless their hearts that they remain motivated in the face of such ironic clarity, at least from our side of the perspective. For them, it's probably not much fun, but bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. I don't want them ill. It's just I just think that their time might be better spent on other activities. But then again, we are a follow your dreams kind of country, so I don't judge, but sometimes I pity. That's all I will say. Oh my word. Okay, so yeah, that's what we have there. Democracy is something that you do. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll cycle them throughout the week, but we wanted to make sure that we got the voting stuff underway. Of course, we also have some some party leadership races underway. You can no longer get a membership now for the New Brunswick Progressive Conservative. So hopefully you've done that before. But if you have your membership, remember that you've got to be informed about your candidates so you can vote. But there's the Ontario Liberal leadership race, the Nova Scotia Liberal leadership race, and the Federal Greens, where you can get your memberships and to get ready to vote in those ones. So please do that. Very, very important. Let's see. So that's democracy, something that you could do. Words of wisdom, kits and cubs. I am, we're getting, well, we're halfway through August there, so we're getting not. I don't want to say we're getting close to the end of summer, because I know when you say stuff like that, people react. But as the days are getting shorter, you might. I keep on thinking of that TV commercial where somebody sees that one tree, that one leaf that fell from the tree, and they're like, ah! Screaming like they're in a horror movie. Right? So if you have an opportunity today, schedule something fun. Go get yourself a little bit of happy today, whether it's going out for a coffee with a friend, or going out to your favorite bakery and buying yourself a little treat, whether it's taking that bike ride through the country that you said, I should do that, and you've been saying that for the last month or so, but you haven't. Go do it. Do something having that brings you some joy or some fun today, because things are heavy, and news tomorrow could be potentially very heavy. So let's build some reinforcements by building extra joy and fun today, which might make tomorrow a little easier to take. There you go. Words of wisdom. See? Thinking. All right. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, may I please have a Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. And hopefully we'll come back with a very brief Canadians who make us proud. On 1, 2, and 3, let me hear you. Oh, yeah, that is the good stuff. Oh, and oh my God, but we do have some very special news about a Canadian who makes us very proud. It seems that it's Orion's 8th birthday. Oh, happy birthday, young man. I hope it is fantastic. Eat all the cake. Eat all the cake. Ah, man. It's getting all the whole bunch all the love for all the damn fam babies. That's all I'm saying. All the love for all the damn fam babies today. Whether they're smiling, whether they're celebrating birthdays, or whether they're being a little handful today. All the love for the damn fam babies. All right, kids and cubs. At count of 3. I don't know if I asked you already, but or if you said it, but if you did, I'm going to get you to say it twice because I don't remember it. So could you please give me a Mr. Beaver? Please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. All right, there you go, kids and cubs. Here it is. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. The first one, not so much a proud thing, but we here at the Beaver Lodge, we love love. We're big fans of love. And it seems that there was a very, very big love moment over the course of the weekend because there was a wedding. A very lovely wedding. Why does this keep on doing this? A lovely wedding featuring beloved Jan Arden, who decided that she was so in love that she would literally tie the knot. So there you go. Declared wife and wife. I'm wondering if that's the same road that she did used when she filmed the video, I Would Die For You. Huh, interesting. But yeah, she got married to Thordis Elva. They tied the knot in more ways than one, according to Hello Canada. It would appear that the beloved pair performed an old Icelandic tradition during the wedding, binding their hands together with red string before literally tying the knot. Quote, "What a privilege to witness these two extraordinary women begin this next chapter together," wrote Lisa Laflamme, sharing the sweet video of their beautiful ceremony at the Canadian Singers' Home near Calgary. Oh, there you go. Oh my God, love, love. I love love. I love love. And other Canadians who make us proud. It's the women today that we are talking about here because it sees here the author of the Heated Rivalry series has made a donation to Nova Scotia libraries. This is by Sean Mott of CTV News. Several Nova Scotia libraries that faced possible closures this summer are getting a major cash boost from one of the province's most famous authors. The Annapolis Valley Regional Library says Rachel Reed, who wrote the popular Heated Let's try that again. The Annapolis Valley Regional Library says Rachel Reed, who wrote the popular Heated Rivalry novel, has donated $300,000, which they say is one of the most significant private gifts in their history. I credit my local library for being a huge part of the reason I'm a published author today, Reed said in a news release. An essential community cornerstone, libraries provide free resources, information, assistance, and safe spaces to the residents. Nova Scotia government should be prioritizing libraries and working to ensure these fundamental branches remain open for their communities. The AVRL, that is the Annapolis Valley Regional Library, which runs 10 library branches, said Reed's donation will allow them to keep their locations open for another 6 months, only 6 months. Their support will make a meaningful difference and help us continue creating opportunities for people across the region to read, learn, and connect, said CEO Julia Merritt. Earlier this summer, the AVRL said 5 of its 11 branches would have to close by mid-July due to a significant funding shortfall. The move was expected to eliminate 9 full-time positions. Following a special meeting, the AVRL board decided to use more than half of its reserve funds to keep the Lawrencetown, Middleton, Kentville, Port Williams, and Hansport branches open until September 30th. The AVRL notes Reed's gift does not replace the critical need for an increase in stable annual public funding for the libraries. But it is lovely to see people remember where they came from and give something back. But yes, Nova Scotia, fund your libraries. That's a non-negotiable. You got to fund your libraries. That's I don't even know why we're even playing with that. I really don't. Kid Sassy going, beautiful pictures. The dress was fantastic on Jan's wife. Wasn't it though? Just stellar. Amazing. All right, kids and cubs. That's all I got for you. So amour et bisous. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.